Year 10, welcome to our short film on beginning your GCSE journey. Obviously we are five weeks or so into your GCSE journey now, but you have started and hopefully you realise that you've chosen the right subjects. We're here just to explain to you a little bit about what you can expect across Year 10 and 11 and how you can make sure you are planned and prepared and organised to get the best grades possible. You're going to hear from myself, Mr. Barham, Mr. Musson and Miss Allen about all the core subjects and things you can do in Maths, English and Science to make a difference as well. The first thing to point out is it says GCSE is a 2-year course, but that is absolutely not the case. So here we are already 5 weeks into your GCSE course, and if you think about where you're going to be 2 years from now, you're going to be at sixth form studying A-levels or at college or doing some sort of apprenticeship. You won't still be at school, so it's definitely not a 2-year course. It finishes in May, really, of Year 11, and all your exams are over by June of Year 11. So it's much shorter than a 2-year course. I just wanted to show you this diagram here to get a sense of where you are in your compulsory education and where you still need to go. So you'll see at the bottom there, we've got our Key Stage 1, and then we've got the big chunky orange bit which is Key Stage 2, so that's all your primary school life. And then we move into the grey bit, which is your Year 7, 8 and 9, Key Stage 3. And then you will see that we go into a sort of little bit of yellow and then the blue. Well, the yellow bit is the kind of Key Stage 4 bit you've done already, so we're sort of 5-6 weeks in. And then the big bit of blue is the bit you've still got to go. So it looks really quite comfortable, that picture. However, when you get to the end of Year 10, that's how it looks. And I just wanted to sort of illustrate that to you because actually Year 10 is such a vitally important year, in many ways more important than Year 11, certainly longer than Year 11, and certainly where a lot of the impact happens and a lot of the decisions about grades happen. So the work you're doing now is not just building up to Year 11, it is the beginnings of your GCSE and will impact on the eventual grades you get. What I don't want to see happen is any of these things. So these are sort of quotes that I've heard Year 11 say over the years. I wish I'd worked harder from the start, and by the start they mean now, where you guys are now in Year 10. I didn't bother much in Year 10, I messed around, now I have loads to do and I can't catch up. That's a real reality, especially with subjects with coursework. Those subjects that prioritise coursework in Year 10, they do it so you get it out of the way so you can concentrate on your exams in Year 11. And of course, if you're still trudging through the coursework in Year 11, you don't have the time on the exam. So get that done now. If you're doing a subject in English, Maths, Science, History, whatever it might be, make sure you keep your notes really safe. Make sure you work to the hardest of your abilities now so Year 11 is easier for you. I wish I could start again. Well, that's something we can't do. We can give you all the support in the world, but we can't give you Year 10 back. We can't repeat time. So make the most of your time now. And Year 11 is tough, and it is. And it's tougher if you've wasted Year 10. And it kind of gets tougher the longer you put off that hard work and dedication. So here we are in October of Year 10. You have this wonderful gift of time on your side, but you need to utilise it now. Okay, so just a couple of things that parents may or may not be aware of. Obviously the GCSEs changed about 4 years ago now, so this is becoming more familiar to students, but these are important changes. So most subjects, there has been a significant break away from kind of modular learning or coursework learning. So despite what I've just said about coursework, it's become less significant in most subjects. In fact, English, for example, doesn't have coursework at all anymore. If you go back 4 years, it was a big part of the English GCSE. So that means that ongoing organisation skills, keeping keeping notes safe, being really, really well organised as you go is really important. If you finish a book in any of your subjects, make sure you've got somewhere to store that book so you can come back to it for Year 11 revision. And students will find they're doing a lot of ongoing assessments, a lot of what we call PPEs or mocks to get them used to the style of learning. They are ultimately preparing for examinations.
Hello, I'm going to talk to you about GCSE English Language and English Literature. There are 4 papers that you'll do for us to cover both of those Englishes. 2 papers for language, paper 1 and paper 2, and 2 papers for English Literature, again, paper 1 and paper 2. Most papers are an hour 45 minutes, and the final literature paper is a little bit longer than that, at 2 hours and 15 minutes. You'll have all of this content in your booklets, but essentially it is largely for the language papers, a big reading section with mini questions in it, and a much larger writing section, making 50% of your grade, 50% for reading, 50% for writing. And then for the 2 literature papers, you'll be doing a section on each of the set texts that you will study in your lessons. So one will be based on Shakespeare, another on 19th century novel, another on modern texts, and then some sections on anthology poetry and unseen poetry. You'll also get an extra qualification out of English, which is our spoken language endorsement. It doesn't count towards your English language grade, but it does appear on your certificate, and that will be a presentation that you will prepare and deliver to an audience, and you will receive a grade of pass, merit or distinction for that. And that is to work on your presentation skills, your ability to respond to questions, and your ability to use standard English, and your teacher will help you prepare for that. What texts will you be studying? Well, we do a range of different texts for English language. You'll get both fiction and non-fiction texts, unseen texts that you won't have ever been able to prepare before, where you'll be expected to analyse those and write about those. And obviously we will use class time to prepare you with looking at multiple different texts and give you a real good experience of a range of different texts so that comes naturally to you. And for literature, for your Shakespeare, you'll either do Romeo and Juliet or Macbeth. Your 19th century novel is likely to be A Christmas Carol. Modern drama, which you'll have already started, will either be An Inspector Calls or Blood Brothers. And then there's 2 poetry clusters, so your teacher will decide which of those you will study, either love and relationship and power and conflict, and you will also learn about some unseen poetry as well. In terms of your assessment, like many of the other subjects, we do assessments at the end of each unit. So when you've studied language paper 1, you'll do a language paper 1 assessment, and so on and so forth. And your PPs will also slip into both year 10 and year 11, exact dates to be confirmed, so that you are having lots of opportunities to sit those tests in exam conditions and practice getting the timings right. In terms of how parents can support their children at home, there's lots that you can do. Make sure that your son or daughter has a dedicated place to study and you're encouraging that independent study. You are checking their planner with them and Broncom and Teams for all the homework and other revision resources that are going to be available for them. Buying copies or loaning out copies from the library of our set texts and encouraging them to reread them at home is also really useful. And we've also got some great online resources and apps such as the Pixel Lit app, which they'll find out about shortly, and GCSE Pod revision. So all year 10 classes in the coming weeks will be taking an English lesson to log on to GCSE Pod and get some practice in with that. And that's something they can use for English, but also for all their other subjects too. And the main one really is about early and frequent revision, so encouraging your child to start revising units in year 10, okay, so that they're building up those skills into year 11 rather than leaving all the revision to the last minute. Little and often is always the best way. And useful resources for you, your local library and obviously the school library as well. I've mentioned the apps and GCSE Pod as well. And we recommend the CGP revision guides. You'll have a letter from me fairly recently asking you if you want to order those guides for English at discounted rates. So I think that's still available available until the end of this half term, so if you want to take us up on that, you are absolutely able to do so, but there'll be another opportunity in Year 11 to order more texts should you want to. That's it from me.
Hi there, Year 10. So I'm here to talk about GCSE mathematics. At the end of Year 11, you're going to take 3 exams, one of them non-calculator and 2 calculator papers. Just really want to stress the importance that you've got the correct scientific calculator in all of your lessons throughout Year 10 and Year 11. It makes a massive difference if you have that. Another thing, we need to make sure we're doing plenty of is Hecate Maths. It's going to help you all the way through GCSE and pick up all of those topics, maybe the ones that you're finding difficult. Sometimes it'll be for homework. Really, really useful tool. It's got videos, it's got quizzes. Hopefully students are all aware of this now and had a chance to log on, but if they've got any questions about it, they need to speak to their teacher and get on board with it. I've already got my classes doing lots of this at home and it's really helping them. So on there you've got various different ways that you can help yourself. If you're stuck on something, you've got other videos that help explain. You've got, you can actually have the video with the quiz at the same time. You can also message your teacher online as well. So really, really important. And in terms of revision guides, we've actually got some revision guides in school. If you're interested in purchasing some of those for a cheaper price, then get in touch. We have got a limited amount at the minute, but do let us know if you're interested. There's the calculators that you need. Please make sure we get those sorted. And then higher or foundation, that's something that we start to talk about now. So we tend to, if you're in the top 2 sets at the minute, you're looking like you're probably going to be on higher. The lower sets might be on foundation, but sometimes that can change and it depends on how hard you work. So if you've got any questions about that, speak to your teacher or you can come and speak to me. And there's my email address if you want to get in touch. Thanks very much.
Okay, I'm here to talk to you about science. I'd like to say actually I've been really impressed with the start that you as Year 10 have made to science. We obviously started this last year and yeah, you've continued, you've come back and we're going strong. The aim of science for me is of course the exams. That goes without saying, we want you to get good results to go forward. But actually it's more than that. Science is really important for understanding the world around you, for analysing what's happening in the world and making your own decisions about how you assess things and how things impact on you. So we want to give you the skill set that allows you to do that in the future. In terms of the course, whether or not you do the combined science or whether you've opted into the additional sort of triple scientists, the structure is the same. There are 6 exams. This is in the handout, there's no point me sort of going through it word by word, but there's 2 for each of the sciences. Depending on which you do, depends on which or how long your assessments are, to be honest. But the structure is always the same. We cover the first ones in Year 10 and the start of Year, or the end of Year 9, and the second ones will start towards the back end of Year 10 and going into Year 11. The assessments themselves, well, we do end of topic assessments. These will happen at the end of each unit within your lessons. These are the ones that you do in class. They are always exam style questions, but they'll be on the topic we've done, and we try and build in some of the topics from what you've already done in the past, just so that we keep going back through them. You'll then have an end of Year 10 exam, which will cover everything we've done up to that point, and then finally your Year 11 PPEs will be in that year, where we'll assess them, depending on how we've got on in the course. We'll see where they sit in that time, but that's a while away, we don't need to worry about them yet. In terms of the last exams, the ones that actually count towards your final grades, you sit 6 papers, as I say. If you're a combined scientist, all of them are an hour and 15 length. If you're a triple scientist, they're an hour and 45. And we add the scores together. For combined, it's all 6 papers. For the separates, it's the 2 chemistry, the 2 physics, and the 2 biology separately. And that gives you your overall grade. And the grade bands will be decided later on, once they know how well the population does. So that's our final exams. Most importantly then, how can you support, and here I'm talking to the parents as opposed to the students, you know, you've got to do your lessons and do your homework and everything else. What I'd ask from you is that you encourage them to talk to you about what they've done each day. If you can ask them what they've done in science, the fact that they'll go over it with you actually helps embed it in their brain. You don't really need to pay attention, you don't really need to sort of engage or think or understand it. It's just them talking about it that's the important thing. But also the encouraging revision. If you could sort of prompt them to do that little bit to make sure they've gone over it before a test, we'll put it on Bromcom so that you know when they are. That's really good. If you can have that stack of flashcards in the kitchen and do sort of 5 or 10 of them a night with them, that would be really, really helpful for them and ultimately us. And in terms of the resources that you can encourage them, BBC Bitesize, although it's slightly outdated, they've not updated it recently, it is still a really valuable resource. Educate It, they'll have a login for that. They've been using that since year 7, and that's full of questions. There's a free website called Seneca that has lots of information on. We don't do the logins for that. That's a case of them signing up for it with their own email address. We've got Caboodle, which has access to the textbook so that they can read more about it. That's less for revision, more if they've not understood something, encourage them to do that one. And then also revision guides. At some point we will send a letter out about ordering revision guides through us if we can. We normally get a big discount on them, and that way you can get them a bit cheaper through us, but that'll be a little bit into this year that we offer that. And that was me.
Okay, so what can you do as parents to help your children in all their subjects? Well, you will find that they are starting to get a lot more work, homework and revision as the year goes on. Make sure, Alan's already said this, but make sure they do have a quiet designated workspace where they can keep their things organised and they know that they can work in silence if they need to in that area. Be prepared to listen to the I have nothing to do mantra, but please be absolutely assured in year 10 and 11 that is never the case. So, you know, if they've got no homework set on Bromcom, and point them in the direction of Teams. We're using Teams an awful lot this year to support with ongoing revision, and if they've missed lessons or parts of lessons for any reason, they'll be able to go onto Teams in most subjects. A couple of subjects are still using Google Classrooms, the students will know that, and they will be able to access lots of revision resources to support them with that, and they'll be able to catch up. So if they say, well, I have nothing to do, and you point them in the direction of their Teams or their Google Classrooms, and they're still saying they've done it all, there is still things they can be doing. That could be rereading text, it could be learning quotes, it could be learning foreign language expressions, it could be learning key dates in history. In year 10 and 11, they should never have a moment where they don't have something to do. Class texts and study guides, as already mentioned by our heads of department, are really important. And very, very helpful, and we do sell them here for a reduced price in all 3 core subjects. They are, however, available in the library as well. So if you don't want to part with the money, please send your children to the library and they can get them for free on quite a long-term loan. And that's also true of class texts. So the class texts in English, they're all in the library if they want to take them home and read them. Please acknowledge that study time is obviously essentially important, but also is that time out. So if they have a study timetable, that would be really helpful, and you can help them draw that up. Make sure they build into that time to do other things, whether that's hobbies or downtime and relaxing. They may choose to have every Wednesday off to play football, or every Saturday off to spend time with friends and family, and that's healthy, and we want to promote that. And lastly there, the limiting screen time. Obviously we know the internet's a brilliant resource. We know that there's lots of apps on there and lots of resources on there that can support them, like our Pixel Lit and Maths app, like Seneca, Educate, etc. But please do kind of limit all the revision they do on screen, because there are other ways they can be revising as well. They can use their class notes, they could be doing past papers, that's really, really helpful. It doesn't all have to be done on the screen, and sometimes that time away from the screen is really important. They won't have the screens, of course, in their final exam. Okay, so obviously this is an unusual year, so I just wanted to sort of say something very briefly about the fact that we have been in lockdown for a few months this year, and time in school has been missed. And obviously lots of students took the opportunities to continue working really well at home. Other students didn't do as much as they could have done. Other students had limitations with IT, etc. And all of that is appreciated and understood and planned for as the students progress with their GCSEs. So please don't worry about any misconduct content. They're in a good position. Being in year 10, effectively they've had a bit of a fresh start, and any content they need to know that they have missed from year 9 will be subsumed into the teaching and learning and planning from the teacher. So please don't worry about that. I have already mentioned teams. So teams, your children will be talking a lot about teams. Please do know that Brom-Com will still be used to set homework, but sometimes it will point them in the direction of teams, and in some cases, rarer cases, Google Classrooms. Lots and lots of revision materials on there for all subjects, so students do need to check on there regularly. Okay, and we strongly believe here that the recipe to success in Key Stage 4 is a bit like a triangle. So we will do an awful lot to support your children, and as the years go on, as year 10 progresses into year 11, you can expect an increase in revision sessions after school and holiday sessions, etc., etc. And the students we have high expectations of what the students do, so we expect them to work hard out of school and in school, and like I said, utilise all the time available to them. Year 10 is a really valuable year. And obviously we've talked a little bit about what you could be doing to support them as well. So when all that kind of comes together, that's when we have real success and really happy, successful students at the end of the Key Stage 4. So please bear in mind, it is definitely a marathon, GCSE. It's not a sprint. If you're thinking that you can coast and then really kind of turn it on January of year 11, you're going to be sadly mistaken. You need to start running now, metaphorically, obviously. You need to start training, start revising, start working hard now. So when you get into year 11, a year that goes incredibly quickly, it'll be the quickest year of your school life, you realise that you're not under that much pressure. You can work at a steady pace and get through it, rather than realising you've wasted year 10 and you're going to burn out when you try to sprint without the marathon beforehand. Okay, so I understand you've made a brilliant start to year 10, so thank you for that. Keep that going. Thank you for listening. I hope this has been really, really useful. If you do have any questions or concerns, if it's about maths, English or science, please contact Miss Allen, Mr Barham or Mr Musson. If it's a more sort of general concern about year 10 and 11, then please contact me, Miss Yeoman. Thank you very much for listening.